Hello there. Good morning. Hi, good morning, Miss Heather. Good morning. All right. So let me see if I can. All right. So we're going to get started so that we can begin on time and so that I can make sure that we're just being respectful of whatever other meetings or things you've got going on today. And just in case anybody needs to hop off, for any reason at all, I am going to record this and I will send this recording link over to you guys this evening with some other links and resources that I'll mention throughout today's webinar. So I hope everyone is doing well. I always find webinars like a little bit confusing because I'm not sure if I'm speaking to like everybody or speaking to a big group or if I'm by myself because everybody's muted. So can everyone hear me okay? All right. I hope that's a yes. I know that you guys are muted. But even just a thumbs up. Can you hear me, Miss Heather? I can only see you. Okay, thank you. Okay, awesome. All right, my friends. So thank you so much for taking some time on this Wednesday morning to come and learn a little bit more about hybrid homeschool. I will talk a little bit about LILLY Education Foundation, our nonprofit, and LILLY Learning Center, just briefly where hybrid homeschool kind of crosses over with LILLY. And then we will schedule a little bit further in advance or in the future once we have some more some steps forward in the 501c3. I will schedule another webinar to kind of discuss the services that we're offering for families, learners, and educators if you're interested. Okay, so we are going to talk a bit about the current hybrid homeschool program because our spring semester, so our current semester, is our pilot program. So beforehand, we had been offering classes and more isolated kind of education services and programs, and we had gotten many requests from families to create a more holistic program. So this semester, we kind of created an ideal and or a theory, and we're putting theory into practice and seeing what we can evolve, what's really working, and what we can, just improve on based on feedback and what we see that in practice isn't necessarily as beautiful as the ideal is, in theory and vice versa. So then we'll talk about the future of our hybrid homeschool program, where we're headed, where we're going in fall, and the updates and improvements that we have already made and what is still in progress. And then we'll end off with just discussing briefly the LILLY Learning Center and LILLY Education Foundation and our location and all of that. And then towards the last 10 or so minutes, you may remain on call or you can hop off if you choose. I'll give you guys an option to ask any questions that you have. So if you have any questions that come up along the way, feel free to use the chat box to, share them with me so that I kind of have a running list. So our why. We do what we do. I am the director, I should back up. I am the director of the Lit Advocate and the director of the hybrid homeschool program. And I was a fifth grade classroom teacher when I left the classroom because I felt really that I needed to. And then soon I found out that I was expecting. And because of that, the the idea of teaching kind of took on a whole new meaning. And traditional school wasn't the best model for me as an educator. And as I've moved into this space and met lots of families and students and other educators like myself, I've come to find that traditional school models don't work for every family and learner either. So we kind of are leading and guiding and building together as a community with families and with our learners a space that's really for like a permissionless education space, right? We kind of guide ourselves, and there's a lot of autonomy and liberty there. So right now, as I said, our spring 2024 pilot program we're getting towards the end, and our last day of the semester is May 23rd. So it's our pilot program. We began with a theory and we've had an idea, and we've had the opportunity to kind of put it into practice and see what's working and what we want to modify moving forward. So it is being held in New Tampa at Excel Music School. It is a small space, and it's not really small in square footage, but the layout is very difficult to kind of move around and be fluid. So once we realized that we had like maxed out and gotten on a wait list really quickly, we knew that we needed to look for a new space. So most of my journey throughout the semester when I wasn't on site has been looking for a space that's a safe space, that's child friendly, that's also, there's room to grow our programs as well. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, the hybrid part of the hybrid homeschool, on Mondays and Wednesdays we have at home learning days, and those are asynchronous. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're on site at Excel Music School, and then students receive the option to sign up for a weekly tutoring session. And Fun Fridays are from 9:30 to 11 on Zoom, where they do like virtual field trips and STEM explorations and listen to like Wow in the World podcasts and do kind of team challenges as well. And then once a month, we also go off-site and we meet at a local business, or we just meet somewhere in the community for a field trip together. And this Friday, we're going to go to the Flatwoods Park in New Tampa for a picnic and poetry, or a picnic and a potluck poetry in the park. And we're going to go like zip lining there as well. So that should be fun. And okay, so our program is really dedicated to homeschool students, the traditional home education students who have to submit, their intent to homeschool at the beginning of the year or, whenever it is, even if it's in the middle, and kind of continue to keep a portfolio. And then the PEP students, which is a new program this year, the personalized education program. If you have any questions about either of these, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to explain. We serve grades K to 8, and we are really this semester, we opened up the option, or we allowed parents who already had a program that they were using or a curriculum that they were using, and we gave them the option to complete a survey and tell us whether or not they wanted us to send home learning work and other resources to support student learning on Mondays and Wednesdays especially. And then we also served families who are looking for a more holistic kind of full curriculum. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. So let's see. This year we have 2 core teachers, and we have an additional math teacher, a Spanish teacher, and I'm also the Young Authors Club teacher and the book club teacher. So we also use Google Classroom as a way to just kind of keep track of asynchronous work and communicate with students and families on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I'm so sorry, but my images were all wonky this morning. So these images are of Logic of English. So these, I kind of wanted to show you what our program looked like this year in terms of the resources that we're using and the curriculum that we're using. I can add this, I guess the images, I can re-add the images and share this link with you in case you're interested. So right now for reading, we are using Logic of English, and Logic of English is a Science of Reading Aligned curriculum. So it's systematic phonics, spelling, phonological awareness, grammar, and then the essentials, which is grade 3 to adult. That program also includes reading comprehension component and a little bit of writing. While the Logic of English Foundations curriculum is for like the primary grades up until 3rd grade, depending on the level of the reader. And that it has a really strong basis in the phonics and phonemic awareness components for kind of budding literacy and students who are learning to just write and be able to encode as well. And then we use a critical thinking series or the critical thinking series with a comprehension curriculum called Reading Detectives. And we incorporate lots of activities and projects and STEM experiments and read alouds, either because we notice that there's like something going on with one of our students, like maybe they need, or maybe a couple of our students are having trouble being able to understand that sometimes your friends are going to want to sit next to another friend, or they aren't going to want to be partners with you today because they want to be partners with this person. So we'll do like a kind of like a friendship exploration or whatever it is that we see is necessary in our community. And that's the really beautiful thing about this space, is that we can adapt to what the kids are really showing us they need. And I think it's really important to kind of be able to witness that and have the time and the space to see it. So we also accept Step Up for Student scholarships, as I think I've mentioned a little bit, but we accept the fes-ua, so the Unique Ability Scholarship, the PEP, and New Worlds Reading, though in this case, New Worlds Reading wouldn't apply because the program is for public school students. So we are an approved direct pay provider. So what that would look like and what that looks like now is that parents go into the EMA system if they just received, approval or funding, or the legacy system if they've been awarded scholarships previously. And on the legacy system, they'll submit an invoice, and then on the EMA system, they'll just go into the provider marketplace, find our service, and then request the monthly tuition. We just ask that families are aware that there's really no quality control yet with Step Up for Students. So you might request a service, and then we are reimbursed for that service. It could be like in a week, but it could also be as much as 3 months, 3.5 months at the longest, is what I've seen. So we just ask that you submit, if you're using the EMA portal, the service request within 5 to 7 business days of the first day of the month for tuition, or 5 to 7 business days, in advance. And it's a very simple process that I can help you, can kind of walk you through if you need it. Right now, we are also working with Tampa Bay Test Prep, which is a local Brooksville tutoring company and kind of an education business, but also Ingrid Motes is a wonderful mathematician. She studied at UC Berkeley, and she created the curriculum Hello Math, which is based on the Singapore math approach, which is a really great, I think, curriculum and philosophy of math if it's understood. So we've been working with her to really build more of an understanding of how we can help not just learners, but our families understand how to apply the concepts of Singapore math at home. Okay, so this is what our current hybrid homeschool schedule looks like. We we hit max capacity, and we have 14 students. It could be very tight, but it's perfect for the space or the size group that we have. But as we said, because we wouldn't have been able to take any of the learners on the wait list, we did move forward in finding a bigger space, which we'll talk about later. On Mondays and Wednesdays, like I said, those 2 days are at-home learning days, and that's when we send home materials for independent learning. And this learning is asynchronous, meaning that it could be, kids can complete it in the morning, they can complete it in the afternoon. There's no set time to be online on Mondays and Wednesdays, except for if the student has signed up for a weekly tutoring session, which doesn't change each week. So it remains the same throughout the semester. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, those are our on-site lesson days, and those are the exciting days because then we get to come together, and I think there's something to be said that the kids have like a little dose of being together in community, because at least in my opinion, I see them come every morning really excited to be there, and I see them leave in the afternoon, knowing that they're going to miss their friends and just wanting to be present. So it keeps things fresh. So this semester we're beginning at 9:30, so we start with a morning meeting where we kind of go over values or character development. We model like conflict resolution and simple things like, okay, how do we share what we ate for breakfast this morning, and how we kind of turn our body towards our speaker and we make eye contact, and we listen, and how can we ensure that we're listening by responding back to our friends so that they know that we've heard them. So those kinds of like social skills and life skills, I think, are often taken for granted, but they go a long way, because all of a sudden you see, your students or your kids really treating each other kindly, and being able to resolve a conflict that's sticky for a child who's still learning and developing. So those are my favorite times of the day. And then at 10, we have reading and snack on Tuesdays, and then reading and grammar on Thursdays. Both of these days include, or both of these reading blocks include a bit of writing as well. But we have modified this for next semester to include at least a set chunk of time for writing instruction, specifically in the fall. At 10:55, we have math, and at 12 o'clock, we have lunch for the students who are with us for the full day, or dismissal for the students who are with us for the half day. So for reading and for math, we use the center or the workshop approach. So there's one teaching station, and the teacher is working with a small group and, providing direct instruction and support. And then there's two other stations where the other kids will, be working. And then when the timer goes off after 15 minutes or 17 minutes, then the students at the direct instruction will, move to this station where they're like building compound word flowers with petals and connecting them, or they're here, practicing their sight words, or working on a word sort based on like their word study or phonics pattern. So that's an example of how we're working to meet each student or each student group's level, while still giving them an opportunity for independent and small group learning when they're not with the teacher for direct instruction. For reading, that does look a little bit different, because we have two levels in Logic of English: the foundations, which is like the primary up to third grade, and then the essentials, which is third grade up to adult. And we have our lead teacher and our assistant teacher, both who are Logic of English trained, who are working with, the two different groups, which are further broken up into three smaller groups. So in reading, we have 6 groups in 2 different rooms. Then at 12:15 after lunch, we have Spanish, and that's really an active, fun, engaging class that's loud, and they sing and they're jumping around. And then they come to me after Spanish for Young Authors Club or book club. And Miss Reagan is with us as well. She's our lead teacher. And they're like all sweaty, and they say, Spanish is like recess, but they're really learning. They're really learning, which is amazing. So Miss Sarah from Spanish Academy of Tampa, she is wonderful. I know that lots of members of our community have worked with her or have gone to some of her classes at Wesley Chapel Rec Center. So she is great. And then Friday from 9:30 to 11 on Zoom, we have our virtual Fun Friday. But once a month, we actually go off-site for a field trip, at a local business or somewhere in the community. And on that day, we don't have a virtual meeting on Zoom. So something that I wanted to share this with you, because it doesn't only guide our philosophy, but it guides, I think, every program and service that we offer. And it really comes down to us knowing that to learn anything is to take a risk. And we believe that there's power not in comparing ourselves to another student or another learner or parent, or even comparing ourselves to the standard, but to comparing ourselves to ourselves. How have we grown? How has our program grown? And what can we improve looking forward? One activity that I do at the beginning of almost every single lesson when I come together with my private students is a star and a wish. Like, where are we shining? Where do we wish to grow and go? And that really underlines everything that we do. And that's the process that we're in right now with the Spring Pilot Program, where we're saying, okay, where are we shining and where can we grow and go? But I do want to be transparent about that, because I'm very weary of saying and committing to one, even if it's a small detail, one thing that could still be an evolution. And I very much, and I know our team really honors the process of sitting together and kind of steeping in it, and through dialogue, being able to understand, like, okay, what is the problem here, and what solution might work best. And that's not to say that there are problems. It's just to say that this is something that I think is important in modeling for our students and in becoming great. So, as I said, kind of there, by demonstrating that we're willing to take risks and make mistakes and sometimes even fail in order to learn, we're modeling for our students how, by observing, kind of quiet awareness and evaluating our projects or whatever we put out into the world, then we can take a look and revise and remold and move forward with a clearer vision. So that goes straight to our program updates. Let me take time. Okay. So we've been here for 23 minutes. Thank you, my friends, for listening. Okay, so that brings us to where we are now. So I was searching for a space because I was finding that, first, our hybrid homeschool program was completely maxed out, and we had already started a wait list before our spring semester began. So knowing that, I thought, okay, we need to move forward with a space that's bigger and a space that's more open. The layout has to be more open so that we can have more fluid groupings. But our tutoring services, our literacy and intervention services that we offer students in one-on-one and small groups, even beyond hybrid homeschool, we are currently in 4 different locations. So what that means is that at any day or any point in time, somebody has somebody's, teacher's guide in their trunk, and this person has, the manipulatives, and this this is here at New Tampa in the closet. And it's difficult to teach, on the go, because education, I think, and just any types of education programs require a lot of supplies, and also require those supplies on the fly, because I might notice that this lesson is tanking, or like there's something that's not working here, and I need to grab finger paints from the closet so that we can make it more multisensory or whatever it is. We really wanted to bring everything home. And in the meantime, what I was coming to find is that as a for-profit education business, I was hitting dead ends. And our team was growing, but Step Up for Students, we use Step Up for Students. Lots of our families use Step Up for Students, I should say. Isn't always, hasn't been something that we could certainly rely on, and it's given us a lot of strain in terms of how much we could grow. And that kind of opened up my eyes to how many services that families need, because there are a lot of people who are now looking for the services because they have access to the scholarship funding. And I just I realized that I didn't want to turn any student away, because we are a for-profit entity that is growing, but just the system right now isn't built yet to sustain, a very big organization and be able to continue forward. So we launched and incorporated LILLY, our education foundation, which you can go to the domain address lillyeducationfoundation.org to learn a little bit more about what we're doing. But essentially, we are hoping to support the Central Florida area by creating a hub and a space where families, educators or specialists, occupational therapists, mental health counselors that work with children, speech language pathologists, PTs, and then learners of all kinds, with or without IEPs, who are or are not receiving, scholarship funds from Step Up for Students, who might need a little bit more social emotional support. We work with lots of kids who have been adopted or are in the foster care system. And we work with students who are traditional learners as well. But we want to be a resource for the community, for parents who are struggling to get in touch with Step Up, or parents who do need a little bit more support to identify what that particular learning need is that they're kind of seeing or sensing, but aren't able to identify in their child. And that's where the learning, or the LILLY Learning Center, comes in. So LILLY Education Foundation is kind of the umbrella, and the LILLY Learning Center will be a place where the Lit Advocate and Hybrid Homeschool will have a space, but we will also have spaces for other specialists in the K-12 education space. So it'll kind of be like a one-stop shop for families who are seeking support, seeking services, consulting or guidance, or even just like have a question and they don't know who to turn to. And that's what we hope to do. So it's very exciting, and it feels very guided. I do believe that this is where I'm supposed to be, even if I can only see the first step, and not the whole staircase. I do know that this is the perfect time for an organization like LILLY. Okay, so now looking forward to fall, what kinds of things do we have in the future? Oh, Elizabeth and Catherine, thank you so much for saying yes. I just saw. Thank you. I'm glad you could hear me. So what is our fall 2024 program going to look like? First, it's the fall 2024 semester. We are either enrolling in semester by semester, or you can enroll for the whole year, just knowing that the last day to enroll for current students in the fall for the spring is November 1st, and students, those spaces won't be reserved. So at that time, we will open up any open spaces that, where students haven't re-registered, to families on the wait list. So our new space means more space, and our max K-8 enrollment is 36 students. So right now we currently have 18 students enrolled. So that we haven't really done much of a push for hybrid homeschool because we want to make sure that first we have the families who are interested and on the wait list or have requested information have the opportunity to learn more about us. And we also want to make sure it's the good fit or the perfect fit for each learner and each family, because there are so many options now that this isn't going to be the best fit for everybody. Maybe if you guys are looking for a more classical type education, this is a little bit more like progressive. This is a little bit more like on the cusp of the 21st century, I'd like to say. But there's nothing wrong with either type of education that you're looking for. We just hope to be able to really stand our programs or ground our programs in inclusion for all types of learners with all types of needs. So based on enrollment in the fall, we'll either have two groups, one group for K3 and one group for 4-8, or three groups, one group for K2, 3-5, and 6-8. So if we have 25 students or less, we'll have two groups with a lead and an assistant for both groups, and two subject-specific teachers that are shared. And that would be our math teacher and our Spanish teacher. And we'll do block scheduling so that those teachers will rotate. And while one group is in math with their assistant teacher and their lead teacher, the other group will be in reading. So it'll be like a rotation. Okay, so our registration options this semester or in the fall semester, there are a couple of new options. There are some modifications to plans and pricing, as well as to scheduling. So it's been tweaked a little bit so that our school day will begin, instead of at 9:30, it'll begin at 9. And then with the first 20 minutes being a morning meeting, and then it'll go from 9 to 12 for half day and 9 to 2 for the full day. We also have now two options, either the basic or the complete curriculum. So this is what we're seeing. I mentioned that we, at the beginning of the semester, or right before the beginning of the semester, we sent out parent homeschool style surveys, and we also added the option for parents to tell us whether or not they're going to be participating in Monday and Wednesdays at home learning days, and whether or not they would like learning materials alongside what we're doing on site on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it has made us realize that there are two tracks, because there are students who will go home and will work on that project or that essay or that writing activity, and then they'll come back to school or come back on site with their folder full. And then there are students who they have a PE class, they're going on field trips, they have a farm, there are all types of homeschool styles, but they come back and they don't have anything to share with their classmates who are sharing their poem that they wrote at home yesterday. And for us as teachers, that makes us feel like, well, that's not necessarily fair either, right? So we are redefining our packages so that we have a more distinct kind of lane, because we did create a distinct lane, but right now there's not enough kind of space between them, if that makes sense. So being able to, say we're just in this for the basics, or we're in this for the complete program, which also includes that virtual tutoring session, which is one-on-one with their teacher, and the virtual Fun Friday on Friday mornings. So the basics will include, and I'm sorry to kind of misspeak or guide you, and I hope I didn't confuse you, but the basics will include at-home learning resources, which will be asynchronous, However, it's not necessary for you to complete them. Well, the full package, the expectation is yes, those learning assignments, those projects, or that essay, it is turned in based, with regards to the deadline. And of course, there's flexibility there because there are always emergencies or things that happen. So we get that. But with the basic package, we're going to send home lesson materials, or you'll have the option to participate. But this is the best path for families who are really full and really are just focused on the on-site days and maybe the field trips or kind of the community and social learning aspect. While families who are looking for a more complete curriculum, you're going to want to go to or choose the complete package. Yes, so there's time for questions at the end if you have any questions there. Okay, so please note though that hybrid homeschool does not provide lunch or snack. Because of allergies, I'm allergic to everything under the sun, so I am very cautious about what I offer and what we offer kids. So we will have a medical form and an allergy form, which I believe some of you have already completed. So thank you so much for taking initiative there. But because you just really never know if it's even an unknown allergy, we asked students to bring their own snack, a recyclable or reusable water bottle or thermos. And if they're staying for the full day, they'll bring not just one, but two snacks, especially or only if your child is like a snacky kid. My daughter will live eating like apples and dried fruits and things all day long, and then we sit her down for lunch and she doesn't want to eat it. So based on what you guys think is best, your kids, I'd say two snacks, pre-packed, and a pre-packed lunch as well. So nothing that needs to be like microwaved. And yes, so if you have any questions about that, please feel free to type in the chat box as well. So as I said, the complete option or the complete kind of hybrid homeschool curriculum, it's going to include not just the Monday and Wednesday at home lesson work, but it's also going to include the Tuesday and Thursday on-site days. You can register for half day, 9 to 12. You can register or for full day from 9 to 2. And then our virtual Fun Friday, we've changed from 9:30 to 11 this semester to 9:30 to 10:30 next semester. And our Zoom tutoring sessions, we changed from 25-minute sessions to 40-minute sessions once a week with the student's teacher on Zoom. And we've also added the option for enrichment clubs, which will take place either before or after the school day on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we are considering doing enrichment clubs on Fridays as well in the afternoon. We're just trying to think about how that would lay out if we had a field trip that was an extended field trip. So you know that usually our field trips go from about 9:30 to 12 or 9 to 11. So they're 2.5 hours. And we try to keep it, in the local Tampa Bay area and just, have it be kind of an informal gathering because there are other homeschool groups that are getting together for field trips at other times in the day. So yeah, so we are considering doing art in the afternoon on Friday and also after school or after class on Tuesday or Thursday. And it might be possible, or it might be that we offer one class each day and you can register for either one or the other if you are interested in signing your child up for that. These classes, yoga, coding, the Kidpreneur Club, they're to be determined and they're based on interest. They are classes where we'd have to bring in other either education businesses or program providers. So if we don't have enough interest, then we wouldn't be able to contract those businesses to come in, and bring their materials and send one of their teachers to us. So I'm going to send out a form specifically about some of these questions. And if you are interested in any of them, please feel free to voice your opinion so that we can take that into consideration as we meet over the next couple of weeks to define some of the lingering questions that we're still evaluating. So this is our tentative fall schedule. Again, Mondays and Wednesdays will be asynchronous. The change from 25 to 40-minute tutoring sessions, and you can choose either the basic or the complete program and still receive the at-home learning component. But for the full complete curriculum, there is just a little bit more dedication to completing those resources, because we are under the impression that, and you are under the impression, so together we agree that, okay, this is the only other, or this is, the core, the foundation of this student's particular education, and this is your homeschooling style. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, our schedule does change a little bit because we are now considering, if we have 2 or 3 groups, we are going to use a block schedule. So I gave an example of what a Tuesday might look like and a Thursday might look like, let's say for one group. So if it's the K3 group, on Tuesdays, they would arrive, we'd have morning meeting as a whole group. And then from 9:20 to 10, we would have our logic of English reading groups, or our foundation groups, writing and snack at 10. At 10:30, so from 10:30 to 12, we'd have a STEM block, and our STEM block is going to integrate math, science, mostly math and science, but there will be like project-based learning. For example, this semester we have a student who's doing, she designed and is now constructing a tiny house learning center. So it incorporates like engineering and architecture, but the base of the project is, perimeter and area and even volume. And then she's also doing research and pricing out materials. And I'm actually taking her to present in front of a co-starters for charities group at the end of May, so that together we can explain, what the mission of LILLY Education Foundation is, and she can show in the Learning Center tiny house, because she plans to create a village with many tiny houses, what our philosophy is in action. So it's really amazing to see it come together, and for that reason, we've decided to integrate not just math, but rather create a block for STEM, so that students are getting many different types of skills, but they also have the chance and the time to be hands-on. And then at 12 o'clock, that's our half-day dismissal, at which point our full-day students will have lunch. From 12:20 to 1:20, we'll have Spanish, and then 1:20 to 1:55-ish, because 2 o'clock is dismissal, our students who are with us for the full day. For that last block of time, we are going to do a caring community, so a service project, and students will work in small groups to create or define a need in our community and think about how we can work together to solve or to help that particular need. So maybe it's like building a little free library in front of our learning center, or maybe it's raising funds for an animal shelter or for guide dogs, and really kind of taking that project from a seed to a sprout or to a flower, a bloom, which I think will be really quite amazing. And then the same group will then, on Thursday, they'll arrive at 9 for my morning meet, and then from 9:20 to 10:20, we'll have our STEM block. And then our longer block on Thursdays from 10:20 to 12 would be our logic of English, so humanities. Logic of English, we always want to maintain our phonics or science of reading component each day. And then we will move into reading for comprehension, and humanities also integrates like history and sometimes even like government and laws and reading through history to deepen comprehension and build metacognition or active reading and thinking skills. And then 12 o'clock is lunch for full day students and dismissal for half day. And then same thing, 12:20 to 1:20, we'll have Spanish, and 1:20 to 1:55 is historical book club. And then on our Fun Fridays next semester, we'll focus very much on STEM, but we'll also incorporate a bit of history or social studies as well. And then once a month, we will meet for an in-person field trip. Okay, so these wonky images, I'm sorry. So registration. By this evening, I will send out an email with a link to the webinar recording in case you missed anything or you had to hop off. And it will also include our registration link and links for our deposit. And deposits, the half day and the full day deposits have separate links because it was very difficult to put it together on one page without it looking like you had to pay all of these deposits that you might not be registering for. So I'll send all of that this evening in tonight's recap email. And just kind of being aware that our last day to register, like doors closed, is July 1st, and that also includes a deposit. And the deposit doubles as a materials fee, and it has to be paid to reserve a space in the program because we're using, because it doubles as a materials fee, then as we move forward, we are going to be purchasing our workbooks or any seats in like apps or software programs that we're using for at-home learning. And we are offering a welcome webinar discount. So it's 10% off of the first month's tuition for any families present or watching the recap, as long as you register and submit the deposit before Friday. So, and all families who have already registered and submitted the deposit will then automatically be rolled over in the 10% off in August. Okay, so anything else? All right. Whew. I've had enough talking. Do we have any questions? You can feel free to just unmute yourself if so.
Hi, good morning. I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, a couple of them. So for your pilot program this spring, about how many of those kids have already enrolled for the fall hybrid?
So we did not actually even open up, and we've been reserving space for them, which is, something that we've shared with our families, which is why we only opened up to students on the wait list for registration. But we are working together with our families to collect feedback. So we felt that first we should be collecting feedback before like shoving a registration link in their face, while the waitlist families have been waiting. So just to be transparent, my goal is to first work to get feedback and to collect their feedback, and the form closes, I believe, on this Friday. And then we're going to be sending out emails for re-enrollment. So
Okay.
we know that families have informally said like, save us a space and we'll be there. But you're free to reach out to any families about their feedback, because I think that would be a great way to learn about who we are and our culture, and what they're seeing working and what they think we can improve on. So if you did want to get in touch with somebody, just let me know and I can put out a call and see if anybody, I'm sure they would be because our community is amazing, if anybody would be willing to talk to you.
Okay, awesome. And my other question is about safety precautions. So I think I read on the brochure that the doors are locked during the school day.
Yes.
What else do you have there or will you have at the LILLY Learning Center?
That's an amazing question because it's something that is always on my mind and I think is super important nowadays, to be just very conscious of every potential risk. And so, that being said, we, you're right, we keep our doors locked all throughout the day. We've changed the locks on the doors at the Lilly Learning Center so that they are either like fingerprint based or code based, and each teacher or team member will have their own separate code so that we can keep track of who's coming in and out. There's just accountability there, I think, even though, there's no intention or expectation that that's something that we would need to pull the records for. It's just something that I like to include because it is a way of just maintaining accountability for who's inside the space and when.
Okay, right.
And those locks, those door locks also auto lock. So they lock right behind you, and the doors like auto close as well. So we are currently working on installing outdoor cameras around the perimeter, and there is a PVC fence and a metal fence, but one side of the fence is still, or they didn't close it off. So there's a very small portion behind the learning center that isn't closed off, and we're actively seeking funding to, to be able to close off that fence for safety reasons. Um, and we will not open these doors without that fence closed because I will not sleep. We will not begin without that fence closed. You have my word on that. So yes, so those are our current safety, our building safety precautions. Also, students when parents come in, kids can't just leave the or come in. So they have to be accompanied by an adult. It sometimes is a little bit, you're running, you don't want to get out of the car or whatever it is, but it is really important that we see each parent's face, or if it's the emergency contact or the person who marked as authorized for pickup, then they show their license, and then they'd sign them out and put the time. And we save all of those records throughout the entire year because if there was ever a question about somebody coming for authorized pickup or whatever it is, it's important that we are able to go back to our records. So drop off, the parent or authorized pickup person has to come in with them and sign them in, and the same for pickup.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have any other questions, Miss Beth?
No, that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Miss Heather, great question. So throughout the day, we don't have scheduled recess, and it's because of it's at a sake of time. But throughout the day, we'll go outside for sometimes 7 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes. Sometimes the kids go outside with their picnic blanket, and that's where they'll have lunch. But like we have hula hoops on site. We have like one of those big like what are they called? Like the tent things that like from like field day that have different colors, and the kids run through them, or they'll play hopscotch. But we every single day we take some kind of brain break, or we integrate it into the lesson that we're doing at that time, or we'll go out for lunch outside because they need that time, and we are very responsive to their needs at the moment. If I see them getting jittery, I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's stand up. We're going to go outside and we'll do a little bit of yoga, because there's no point in pushing kids through the learning, through learning or through the lesson if they're not focused. And going outside and getting that vitamin D is like essential. So just being responsive to our kids at all times. That was a great question. All right. Anything else? Yes. So we have grade bands. So you're taking a brain break, Miss Heather. So Heather asked, are there approximately three grades together in a classroom? So our groups will be approximately three grades, yes. Sometimes that's not always how you like slice the pie based on enrollment, but the approach is considered the one room schoolhouse approach, in the sense that all three grades will be learning a similar or the same concept, or maybe it's like math vocabulary. Today we're working on factors, or today we're working on, you know, getting the sum. But the kindergartners are working on using like pictographs or some kind of visual representation to get the sum of two single digit numbers, while the first graders are working on maybe two digit numbers, while the second graders are working on regrouping, or just kind of refreshing on regrouping, or whatever it is. So in that way we focus on one topic, we have a shared topic, but we each, in the particular grades, are focusing on a different level of complexity or a different application for the topic, which is really powerful in mixed age groupings, because now this second grader who, might not have so much confidence comes in and can, let's say, we say, you be the teacher. Now you create a word problem using the word sum. And, your buddy who's in kindergarten or first grade needs to be able to um, solve for the sum and support them with instructions or step by step, so that you can guide them through, figuring it out. And that's really the highest degree of learning. If you look at like Bloom's hierarchy of learning skills, after all that you learn, what do you do with it? What do you create with it? That's how, you show mastery. So it's good for a lot of reasons. Did I answer your question, Miss Heather? No. You can feel free to unmute yourself if you don't want to keep typing. Okay. So a little bit of like what we discussed there, or I kind of mentioned. So when we'll have a lead teacher, and then let's say that we do have three groups. So we'll have our lead teacher and our assistant teacher for reading. And for reading, we will use, if there's K3, we start with diagnostic assessments, or we start really with assessments. And based on those assessments, that's where we place them in their groups for reading and for math. And we combine students based on the skills they need to focus on. And sometimes those combination groups are really like longer term, because there are, three or four students within that group, that K3 group, that are really here in the math level of like mastery, and for their grade level expectations. And because of that, they stay, or they remain in that group for a while, until they show that they've mastered the concepts that are required there. But sometimes it's that we notice through informal observation that our students, are working on whatever it is, and there's a kid over here, and a kid over here, and a kid over here, that it might be two first graders and a second grader. They're not necessarily in the same grade level, but they all need help on, maybe it's like beginning blends or like long vowels, or vowel teams. And so we put them together. And it's like this informal grouping that's necessary based on skill. So we use the center or the workshop approach, and we also use the one home schoolhouse approach. So it's when necessary or when we can do this, especially in math and science, there's a lot more flexibility because of just general programming that we can focus on one idea. Maybe it's volcanoes. And our students in, K2, the youngest students might be working on like observing the impacts of a volcano or sketching the an active volcano, while the second graders might be able to write, a pretty good composition, including facts and a topic sentence and a concluding sentence about volcanoes. While our kindergartners might just be able to like either write a single sentence or work on labeling the parts and learning text features. So that's in short, we use the center model and the workshop, approach and the one room schoolhouse approach. You're welcome. You too. Thank you so much for coming. Please feel free to reach out. All right, Miss Heather, I hope that that was helpful. Okay, and have a lovely day. I'm going to go ahead and upload this link to our, or rather, I'm going to take this link and send it out in the webinar. So, or I'm so sorry, the webinar email, webinar recap email. I've been talking too much. But thank you so much for being here and for asking amazing questions. And if you're watching later, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I feel like it's been it's been like hours of me droning on, but I really hope it was helpful. Please feel free to, ask any questions if you have any. And there's also a link on our website to book a call if you just have some other questions that are very specific that weren't addressed here. So thank you so much. We hope to see you guys next year or at our open house at the end or in the summer. Bye-bye.